A measure at the Illinois State House would allow undocumented migrants in the state of Illinois to vote in school board elections. This getting some reaction from Republicans at the Illinois State House. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. Outside of hosting Springfield's Morning News, I cover what happens at the Illinois State House, and we, of course, are at the beginning of a legislative session where the new General Assembly, that is the 103rd General Assembly, with Democrat supermajorities, they're now having to get all these bills put together, and they're going to put them in committees and talk about them and move them through, and they end session in the middle of May, but of course one of the big things they've got to deal with is the state budget. That begins July 1st. Governor J.B. Pritzker earlier this week, if you've been tuned in all week, then you heard some of the review of what he had to say. He's looking to spend 50 plus around close to $50 billion. If you work in the federal funds that the state of Illinois gets every year, it's more than $100+ billion. But in state tax dollars, nearly $50 billion is what he's looking to spend. But they'll deal with all of that in the weeks ahead. But they'll also deal with a bunch of other pieces of legislation. And one of those is a bill that's been filed in the House, but also in the Senate, that would allow for undocumented migrants in Illinois to vote in school board elections. I talked with the Democratic Senate sponsor, Senator Villanueva, and she talked about what exactly this bill does and how she believes it's necessary. Here's some of what she had to say yesterday when I talked with her briefly at the Capitol.
So the bill is actually a trailer off of the elected school board bill that we did with the past, I think it was last year or the year before last year, and was part of a larger conversation in terms of ensuring that the voices of non-citizens, because again, that also includes people who are legal permanent residents and people who are undocumented in a variety of different statuses, have an ability to be able to have their voices heard, particularly around school board elections. There's a larger conversation going around in different areas of this country, including New York City and in other municipalities in Vermont, San Francisco, and the such, on different type of municipal elections, not just school board elections. So what we're trying to do is have a conversation to really think about logistically, like how we would be able to enroll something like this, and also protect communities at the same time, understanding that while we do have a different administration in which we actually filed this bill, because I've had this bill since I was in the House, how do we make sure that this gets done, how it's able to happen, but also make sure that we're protecting communities.
And I talked with Senator Celina Villanueva yesterday and asked if it's really just, an issue of these individuals here. They might be undocumented, but their kids are in schools. They're paying taxes for these schools. Is it about giving those taxpayers a voice, even though they're not legal citizens in the state of Illinois?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really important because we're talking about communities that pay taxes, who have literally so many millions of people who have been in this country their entire lives, know no other country, but the only difference is that they don't have a piece of paper that claims that they are a citizen. And that really, especially when it comes to an elected school board position, we have non-citizens that are able to actually vote in local school councils in the city of Chicago. This gives people an opportunity to be able to have a voice especially in their children's education. And as unfortunately what we're seeing across the country, there's a lot of hateful rhetoric that's going on. There's a lot of people, that are trying to come in and actually gain leadership and power in these school board elections that have such a huge say-so over the education, over the curriculum of our students, that it is imperative that we have all voices that are heard, that need to be heard in these situations.
Again, talking with Senator Villanueva yesterday at the state capitol, I asked about what is likely going to be some of the criticism about this bill, and it seeming to take away the incentive of enfranchisement. And the incentive of enfranchisement means becoming a naturalized citizen. So, how do we go about, encouraging that? And does this take away that incentive? Again, here's Senator Celina Villanueva.
That's someone who doesn't know how the state of Illinois works, because we actually do have that type of programming, and we actually do put money of the state of Illinois budget to actually help people and support them in their process of becoming naturalized citizens. So again, what we are trying to do is to give people an opportunity to have their voices heard, especially when it comes to their children's education. But in regards to helping people become citizens, we also do that too in the state of Illinois.
And as I always do, I try to get both sides of these stories. I talked with State Senator Terri Bryant about this bill, and the Republican from Murfreesboro stopping for a few moments to chat with me at the state capitol. Here's some of what she had to say in response to the bill being filed to allow undocumented migrants to vote in school board races.
Sure. So you might remember that we passed a bill last year or the year before that allowed for not school boards, but a separate kind of organization.
Like a school council.
Yeah, school council is correct. To make sure that they had a voice. Your school board members are your voice. And so those who are undocumented here should not have the right to run for office. Obviously, one of our most sacred rights as an American is to determine who our elected officials are. That's part of being an American citizen. So I'm fine to talk to someone about a pathway to citizenship, but giving someone the same rights as citizens when they're not citizens and they're not even here really as documented individuals, never going to support that.
Again, Terri Bryant from the Capitol talking with me just for a few moments, and she really elaborated more on what this is really all about and how citizens who are able to vote are impacted by the idea of undocumented migrants being able to vote in school board elections.
Citizens have a dog in the fight. We have a right and a responsibility to protect our country. And those who are not citizens of this country, there are so many things that could go wrong with that. I mean, we're looking at, people are worried about things like Chinese balloons and so forth, right? So why wouldn't it be possible for someone to infiltrate our electoral system if they're not a citizen? No, that is a right that is afforded to American citizens. I'll keep talking about working with someone for a pathway to citizenship, but not giving rights to people who are non-citizens in that regard.
So again, just a little bit of the back and forth on one bill that could be advanced at the Illinois State House to allow for undocumented migrants to vote in school board elections. And is it going to stop there if this thing passes? Will it then be allowed to advance for, voting for state offices, statewide offices? I don't think they'd be able to vote in congressional races. But we'll see what ultimately happens with the trajectory of that bill. So I'll update you as we get more here with Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and